Hello and welcome back to my channel, Drunk Crafts with Paige. I am Paige, and this week I'm still working on the wedding cider, but this one is my favorite. Out of the whole variety pack that we purchased for our wedding, this one's my favorite because it is peach mango, and it is da bomb. I don't know if kids even say da bomb anymore, but I love it. We are also going to be breaking out one of our bigger 3D molds this week. I think this is actually the first one I did in our mystery mold resin project. It is our good old female figure, and it is kind of hard to see, but you can see some of the curves in her, and actually when we demold it, she stands like this. And I thought of this concept when we were doing another female-oriented craft. I love doing our female-oriented crafts. As a female myself, I find them very empowering, and I hope that they are empowering to all of my female watchers as well. Even though I may not be always kind to myself, my mind, my body, I hope that these female-oriented crafts are something that you guys can enjoy. And I said something along the lines of, your beach body is just your body at the beach. And of course, that also applies to men as well. But we literally have a female silicone mold here that we can do something with. So I thought it would be fun to try to create a beach scene within this female figure. We're gonna be adding some blue alcohol inks at the beginning, trying to get it to look like water, and we'll probably throw in some seashells and some sand at the end. So I guess let's just dive right into it. I'm so sorry. After using this mold the first time, we ended up with a lot of air bubbles, and so I have already mixed up our little batch of resin, and I heated it as I stirred, and I also stirred it at a much slower pace so I didn't agitate it as much and create any extra bubbles. So I think I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit just to try to get any bubbles that are in there to the surface. We are also going to be doing this piece in layers. That probably contributed to the amount of bubbles in there. Our first layer is not gonna be very tall, and we are gonna be starting, like I said, this mold, you fill it from the top down, so when we demold it, it's gonna sit like this. So we're actually gonna be starting with the very, very top of her body, and that portion is going to be water. So I'm gonna add a couple drops of this blue alcohol ink to it. The color is just blue, and I'm gonna try to keep track of how many drops we use so then I can use them on our next layer. So I think it's just enough to tilt it to make it, tint it to make it look like water. So I put 2 in, and let's mix that around. And it's just a very light blue. And here is our color. I guess it looks kind of darker in the cup. Alcohol inks are really nice when you're looking for more of like a translucent color compared to the mica powders, which come out a little darker. So looking at this resin right now, I see hardly any bubbles going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and do our first layer. There's our first one. It goes right about to her bust. And I'm gonna keep an eye on it just to continue monitoring the bubble situation. Hopefully we don't have any major bubbles going on in here like we did with our first female body figure. And then I'm gonna let this sit for just a couple hours. We want this to mostly cure, but not 100% cure. So therefore it will still bind to the additional layers that we pour. So we'll come back to this in a little bit. It has been roughly 3 hours since we poured the first layer. So it is decently cured, and it is time to put down layer number 2. So I have my resin already mixed up, and it is just kind of sitting here, chilling for a little bit, allowing the bubbles to rise. And we have our alcohol ink once again, and I put 2 drops in the first time. So there's 2 drops once again. Now I am going to try to pour this layer right around the end of her waist. It's as high as I want to go because we want our 3rd layer, the one that's going to have some sand, we want that to be a decent amount as well. So only going to go a little bit higher for layer number 2. Here we go. I added just a little swirl of white alcohol ink in there with a toothpick, kind of like the beach coasters that we made. I don't know if it will do much of anything. It's a little hard to tell when everything is upside down. I thought it might add something nice. We'll see. And I am going to wait until this layer gets a little tacky before I push any of the shells in there. I don't want them to sink to the bottom, or that would be to the top of her body. I want them to sit there. So I'm gonna wait for it to get nice and tacky before I push my shells in. It has only been about an hour and a half, and our 2nd layer is actually pretty solid already. I missed my window of tacky resin to be able to push the shell into it, so I'm kind of really bummed. We are going to have to kind of improvise. I think I'm going to try to set the shell on this layer and add the sand on top, so it kind of looks like the shell is kind of nestled within the sand. I'm not sure. I don't exactly know how this is going to turn out. I'm really sad that I missed my tacky resin window, but apparently this resin cures quicker than I was aware of. So I have my next layer's worth of resin already mixed up. It's been chilling for a little bit, still trying to get as many bubbles out as possible. And I've got this big old jar of Lake Michigan sand. Actually, it's kind of more like a pirate bottle of Lake Michigan sand, and we are going to mix it into our resin. So I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, I wanna try to balance this shell in here. And now I'm gonna try to very carefully glob some of this sand in there. I'm gonna do my best to get rid of any bubbles. It might be a little difficult because of it being sand, but I'll check up on it, maybe hit it a couple of times with the heat gun, see what the bubble situation is. And now we are gonna let this sit for about 24 hours. I want the whole piece to cure. All of our layers are done, and I'm really excited to see what the end result is. Our resin is fully cured, which means it is time to demold our figure and to reveal what our beach body turned out like. Well, here is our beach body, and I'll rotate her around for you guys. But I do have a couple of things that I want to talk about. Firstly, being that I overestimated the amount of time that it would take for this resin to cure, and I missed my window of the second layer being tacky enough so I could just kind of push the shell into it and then it wouldn't get lost in the sand. But alas, it cured pretty quickly and I had to mix it in with the sand and therefore it got lost. But you can see, I think this little white mark on her booty is where the shell is kind of hidden in there. Speaking of the sand, you can see that they separated. My ratio of sand to resin was off. I should have had less resin and more sand, and then it would not have separated and given us this strange layered appearance. I also wish that I would have been a little bit more stingy on the blue alcohol ink. I think I could have been fine with just a drop or maybe even less than that to make the resin color just kind of a hint of blue, and the 2 drops, it looks pretty deep. But overall, I really like the vibe. It obviously looks like water and we've got the sand, and I think my skills on reducing bubbles for these bigger 3D molds are developing. I've got a lot less going on in here, but I will continue to work on it. So here are some up-close shots of our beach body outside in the natural light. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I feel like I'm definitely gonna have to give this whole beach body concept another try, tweak a few things, and see if she comes out a little bit better. If you're interested, feel free to subscribe to the channel or leave a like. My links for my social media are in the description box below for Facebook, Instagram, and my PayPal. I'll see you guys all for the next video. Cheers!